Hello crafty friends, it's Donna here, and I have a card for you today that you may have seen on the Simon Says stamp blog. I don't know about anybody else, but for me, when I was asked to do a card for Simon Says, sheer terror. I started to question my whole life. I wondered if I even knew how to hold a pen properly. Spoiler alert, you can already see that I don't. Just when imposter syndrome had me in its steely grip, this stamp presented itself, and making the card became a pleasure. The stamp is from Paper Rose Studio, and it's called Millie's Bouquet. It has this beautiful big bouquet and several words in gorgeous script. It's such an elegant stamp that I decided that I wanted a really grown-up colour scheme for the stamp. And so I've chosen to go with some pink and peach, as well as some brown for the leaves. Because I wanted the colours to be really subtle, I used quite a bit of colourless blender in the actual shading, unlike my usual use of the marker, which is to chase colour back inside the lines. I've used a tip-to-tip technique to get really soft colour that blends to nothing, and I've tried to show clear footage of that. What I'm going to show you in the video is the colouring of one flat petal, one curled petal, one small peach flower, and one of the leaves. I think with that information, you could go on and repeat the steps and colour everything that's there. I know that your time is precious, and I don't want to take up more of it than I need to. The colours I've used for these darker flowers are R85, R83, and R81. And then once I've gone down to the R81, I'm using the colourless blender and just touching it onto the chisel end of R81 to pick up a tiny bit of pink that I can use to blend that and soften it to nothing. For each petal, I've used the lines marked on the petal as my guide. I've done the darker colours in the centre, but I've also used the little drawn lines coming in from the outsides of the petals as a chance to lay a little bit of darker colour on the outside too. Then for any petal that has a turned over edge, I'm also putting a little bit of darker colour where that would create a little bit of shade on the petal. For the turned over parts of the petals, I've once again touched my colourless blender onto my R81 to make that really soft pink. I've used E18, E15 and E13 for the leaves, and because they have beautiful stripes on them, I'm using those lines to make the leaves a little bit stripy. I've gone in with E18 first, up the centre, and on some of those lines, come in on a few other lines with E15, and then blended the whole thing out with E13. The small flowers were the easiest of all. I've just popped a little bit of R20 in the centres and blended that out with R000 towards but not all the way to the edge. I didn't end up needing the colourless blender because the 000 is so light. The next step was to cut out the bouquet, and I've done that leaving a small white border. This footage has been sped up to double, but in actual fact I go quite slowly so that I'm happy with the final result. And now the background. I have a piece of Nina Desert Storm cardstock, and I've just mixed a little bit of white gouache with water to make a fairly runny mix and spattered that all over the panel. Next comes 3 large and 14,000 very small bits of foam tape. Now that my background panel is dry, I've cut that out using the Simon Says stamp stitched rectangles die, and I'm going to cut the same stitching onto both edges of this brown piece of paper by taping it horizontally across the die and running it through my die cutting machine. Everything on this this card has been stuck flat with glue, except the bouquet with the 14,000 pieces of foam tape. I'm going to leave you with some pictures of the card. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. I hope you've enjoyed our time together and that we'll catch up again soon. If you'd like to see what's coming next, then feel free to click the subscribe button or to press like and help this little channel along. Stay safe, everybody.